The Zodiac Killer, America's most notorious unsolved serial murder case. For over half a century, one name has haunted America's criminal chronicles like a vengeful ghost that refuses to rest. A name that still sends chills down the spine of anyone who dares to whisper it. Zodiac. This wasn't just another serial killer lurking in shadows. This was a predator who deliberately chose to play God with human lives, taunting police, terrorizing an entire region, and creating a deadly game that no one has ever won. But here's what makes your blood run cold. After 5 confirmed murders, dozens of cryptic letters, and countless investigations spanning decades, the Zodiac Killer has never been caught. Tonight, we're diving deep into the most chilling, unsolved case in American history. A case so twisted, so calculated, that it reads like a nightmare designed by the devil himself. The question that will haunt you by the end of this investigation isn't just, who was the Zodiac? It's far more terrifying. Could he still be out there? The reign of terror begins. December 20th, 1968. A cold winter night on Lake Herman Road in Benicia, California. 2 teenagers, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, were about to become the first confirmed victims of a monster who would terrorize Northern California for years to come. But here's what the police reports never told you about that night. Betty Lou was only 16, an honor student with dreams of becoming a teacher. David, 17, had worked all summer to buy his first car, a brown Rambler that would become their tomb. This was their first date. Their last date. The killer approached their car with methodical precision. 1 shot to David's head as he stepped out, execution style. Betty Lou, in absolute terror, tried to run for her life. She made it exactly 28 feet before 5 bullets tore through her back, dropping her face first into the gravel. But here's the detail that will make your skin crawl. The killer waited. He watched her crawl. He watched her bleed. And then, when she could barely move, he walked over and delivered the final shots. This wasn't random violence. This was calculated cruelty, and it was just the beginning. What the investigators didn't realize that cold December night was that they weren't just dealing with a murderer. They were facing a psychological manipulator who had already planned his next move. Because 7 months later, July 4th, 1969, Independence Day, a night meant for celebration and fireworks. Instead, it became the night America met its newest nightmare. Darlene Farron, 22, and Michael Mageau, 19, were parked at Blue Rock Springs in Vallejo. They thought they were safe. They thought wrong. A car pulled up. The driver got out, left briefly, then returned with a flashlight and a 9mm pistol. Bang! 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 The shots echoed across the empty parking lot like deadly fireworks. Darlene died instantly. But Michael survived to tell a story that would change everything. Here's where it gets absolutely spine-chilling. Less than 1 hour after the shooting, at exactly 12:40 a.m., the Vallejo Police Department received a phone call that would send shockwaves through law enforcement. The voice was calm, cold, emotionless. "I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. They are 2 miles north of park headquarters. They were in a brown car. The boy is still alive." Then came the words that would haunt investigators for decades. "I also killed those kids last year. Goodbye." The Zodiac had just announced himself to the world. The killer speaks. But making that phone call wasn't enough for this monster. Oh no, he was just getting started. July 31st, 1969. 3 nearly identical letters arrived at the San Francisco Chronicle, San Francisco Examiner, and Vallejo Times-Herald. Each envelope contained something that made seasoned detectives' hands tremble. a portion of a 408 symbol cryptogram, split into 3 parts like pieces of a deadly puzzle. The killer provided details about the murders that only he could know. Then came his ultimatum. And this is where you realize you're dealing with a criminal mastermind. I want you to print this cipher on the front page of your paper. In this cipher is my identity. If you do not print this cipher by the afternoon of August 1st, I will go on a kill rampage Friday night. But the next letter changed everything. August 4th, 1969. 4 words that would become legendary in criminal history. This is the Zodiac speaking. He had given himself a name. He had created a brand of terror. Now here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. A high school teacher in Salinas named Donald Hardin and his wife Betty did what the FBI couldn't do. In just over a week, they cracked the 408 symbol code. And what they found inside was pure, calculated evil. I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest because man is the most dangerous animal of all. To kill something gives me the most thrilling experience. It is even better than getting your rocks off with a girl. The best part of it is that when I die, I will be reborn in paradise and all the people I have killed will become my slaves. This wasn't just a confession. This was a manifesto of a madman who believed murder was his ticket to eternal power. But the Zodiac wasn't finished, not even close. The Hooded Executioner, September 27th, 1969, Lake Berryessa. What happened on this peaceful afternoon would prove that the Zodiac wasn't just a killer. He was a theatrical performer who turned murder into his twisted art form. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were college students enjoying a quiet picnic on a secluded peninsula. The weather was perfect. The location was beautiful. They felt completely safe. That safety was about to be shattered. Out of nowhere, a figure emerged from the tree line. But this wasn't just any killer. This was something from a horror movie made real. The man wore a black executioner's hood with a bizarre white crosshair symbol painted on the chest, a symbol that would become synonymous with pure terror. In his hand, a long knife that glinted in the afternoon sun. Here's what makes this attack absolutely terrifying. The Zodiac didn't just attack. He talked to them first. He was calm, polite, almost friendly. He told them he was an escaped convict who needed their car and money. He had pre-cut lengths of clothesline ready. He came prepared. After tying them up, he did something that still gives investigators nightmares. He calmly walked over to Brian and began stabbing him in the back. 6 deep wounds. Then he turned to Cecilia and stabbed her 10 times. Brian survived by playing dead. Cecilia fought for her life for 2 days before succumbing to her injuries. But here's the detail that proves we're dealing with a complete psychopath. Before leaving the scene, the Zodiac walked over to their car and meticulously carved his crosshair symbol into the door, along with the dates of his previous attacks. Then, and this is what separates him from every other killer, he drove 27 miles to a car wash in downtown Napa and called the police to report his own crime. I want to report a murder. No, a double murder. They are 2 miles north of park headquarters. They were in a brown car. The boy is still alive. He was playing with them. He was in complete control. But the Zodiac's most audacious attack was yet to come, and this one would bring him dangerously close to capture. October 11th, 1969. San Francisco's upscale Presidio Heights neighborhood. Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up what he thought was just another fare. Instead, he picked up death itself. At the corner of Washington and Cherry Streets, a single gunshot to the head ended Paul's life instantly. But what happened next would haunt the San Francisco Police Department forever. The killer, bold as brass, calmly got out of the cab, wiped it down with Paul's shirt, and took his wallet, keys, and a piece of his shirt as a trophy. Teenage witnesses watched in horror from across the street as this monster casually looted the scene of his crime. Here's where fate nearly caught up with the Zodiac. Responding officers Donald Fook and Eric Zelms actually stopped and questioned a man matching the Zodiac's description just 3 blocks from the scene. They talked to him. They looked him in the eye. And then they let him go. Why? Because of a dispatcher error that described the suspect as black instead of white. The Zodiac later bragged about this near miss in his letters, mocking the police for their incompetence. 3 blocks. That's how close we came to catching America's most wanted serial killer. The piece of Paul Stine's bloody shirt became the Zodiac's calling card, proof that his letters were authentic and his threats were real. And those threats were about to become absolutely terrifying. October 14th, 1969. A letter arrived at the Chronicle containing a piece of Stine's shirt and a message that sent every parent in the Bay Area into panic mode. School children make nice targets. I think I shall wipe out a school bus some morning. Just shoot out the front tire and then pick off the kiddies as they come bouncing out. He was threatening to massacre children. November 8th, 1969. The infamous dripping pen card arrived with another piece of Stine's shirt and the Zodiac's most complex challenge yet, a 340-character cipher that would remain unsolved for 51 years. But the next day brought something even more chilling. A 7-page letter detailing how 2 police officers had stopped and questioned him after the Stine murder, along with a diagram for a sophisticated bomb he claimed to have built for a school bus attack. His arrogance was off the charts. The police shall never catch me, because I have been too clever for them. For 51 years, that 340-character cipher mocked investigators, cryptographers, and amateur codebreakers around the world. The FBI's top experts couldn't crack it. University professors failed. Computer programs came up empty. Then, in December 2020, an international team of amateur cryptographers, David Oranchak from the United States, Sam Blake from Australia, and Jarl van Eyck from Belgium, finally broke the code. And what they found inside was pure, calculated psychological warfare. I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me. That wasn't me on the TV show, which brings up a point about me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner because I now have enough slaves to work for me where everyone else has nothing when they reach paradise, so they are afraid of death. I am not afraid because I know that my new life will be an easy one in paradise death. Even in his secret codes, the Zodiac was taunting his pursuers and reinforcing his delusions of power. The pursuit. While the Zodiac terrorized Northern California with bullets and letters, the largest manhunt in the region's history was already underway. But this investigation would be plagued by challenges that seem almost impossible to believe. Picture this. Every attack occurred in a different jurisdiction. Benicia, Vallejo, Napa County, San Francisco. Each location meant different police departments, different resources, different investigative approaches. In 1969, there was no central database, no instant communication between agencies, no DNA analysis, no computer systems. The Zodiac had chosen his hunting ground perfectly. Detective Dave Toschi of the San Francisco Police Department became the public face of the investigation. For 7 years, he worked the case obsessively, building files on thousands of potential suspects. Toschi believed the killer was local, educated, and probably held a mundane job that allowed him to move freely during the day. He thought the Zodiac's misspellings were deliberate misdirection from someone far more intelligent than he let on. But the pressure of chasing a ghost was taking its toll. In 1978, Toshi's career imploded when it was discovered he had written anonymous fan letters to a newspaper columnist, praising his own work on the Zodiac case. The scandal removed him from the investigation just when they might have been getting close. Even the hunters were becoming victims of the Zodiac's psychological warfare. Meanwhile, in Napa County, Inspector Ken Narlow worked the Lake Berryessa case with equal obsession. For 17 years, until his retirement in 1987, Narlow pursued every lead, interviewed every witness, and chased every theory. The FBI provided support with handwriting analysis, cryptography, and fingerprint examination. But despite all their expertise, despite all their resources, despite all their determination, the Zodiac remained a phantom, the prime suspect. Of all the men suspected of being the Zodiac Killer over the decades, only one was ever publicly named by law enforcement as their prime suspect. His name? Arthur Leigh Allen. Allen was a former elementary school teacher, a convicted child molester, and according to many investigators, the most likely candidate to be the most wanted serial killer in American history. Here's why they believed he was their man. In 1971, Allen's former friend Donald Cheney contacted police with a disturbing story. He claimed that Allen had spoken about wanting to kill people, using the name Zodiac, and attaching flashlights to guns for better night vision, all before the Zodiac's first confirmed attack. The circumstantial evidence seemed overwhelming. Allen owned a Zodiac Seawolf watch, the same logo found on the killer's letters. His shoe size matched prints found at crime scenes. He lived minutes from where Darlene Ferrin was shot in Vallejo. Michael Mageau, who survived the Blue Rock Springs attack, identified Allen in a photo lineup as his attacker. The Zodiac murders and letters stopped abruptly around 1974, the same time Allen was arrested and imprisoned for child molestation. Multiple searches of Allen's home turned up weapons, ammunition, and other suspicious items. His behavior was erratic. His alibis were weak. His psychological profile matched. Everything pointed to Arthur Leigh Allen being the Zodiac Killer. Except for one tiny problem: the evidence. Allen's handwriting didn't match the Zodiac letters according to experts. His fingerprints didn't match prints found at crime scenes. DNA tests from saliva on Zodiac letters didn't match Allen's DNA profile. A bloody palm print found in Paul Stein's cab didn't belong to Allen either. Inspector Dave Toshi, who initially suspected Allen, later stated in 2010 that all the evidence against Allen ultimately turned out to be negative. The perfect suspect wasn't perfect after all. But recent developments have reopened old wounds. In Netflix's 2024 documentary series, This is the Zodiac Speaking, Allen's former stepchildren made shocking claims. They alleged that Allen had confessed to them about being the Zodiac and had taken them to the murder sites. These revelations, coming decades after the crimes, have reignited debate about Allen's guilt. But they also highlight the maddening reality of this case. Every promising lead eventually hits a dead end. The unsolved puzzle. So why, after more than 50 years of investigation, has the Zodiac Killer never been caught? The answer lies in a perfect storm of factors that created the ideal conditions for a killer to escape justice. First, the technology gap. The Zodiac committed his crimes at exactly the wrong time for investigators and exactly the right time for killers. DNA analysis wasn't available until the 1980s, more than a decade after the last confirmed Zodiac murder. Fingerprint analysis was primitive. Computer databases didn't exist. Cell phone tracking was science fiction. The sophisticated forensic tools that solve cold cases today simply weren't available to the investigators who needed them most. Second, critical mistakes. That dispatcher error after the Stein murder, the delayed search warrants for Allen's home, the jurisdictional confusion between different police departments, the contaminated evidence. the missed opportunities. Each mistake was small. Together, they were catastrophic. Third, the killer's intelligence. Make no mistake. Whoever the Zodiac was, he was smart. His cryptograms were sophisticated. His crime scene discipline was remarkable. His psychological manipulation was masterful. He played law enforcement like a chess master, always staying 3 moves ahead. Fourth, the perfect vanishing act. After the Exorcist letter in January 1974, the Zodiac simply disappeared. No more letters, no more murders, no more contact of any kind. Did he die? Was he imprisoned for another crime? Did he simply decided he'd had enough fun? The FBI's National Center for the Analysis of Violent Crime notes that serial killers can stop for various reasons. Death, incarceration, major life changes, or simply aging out of their compulsions. The Zodiac's silence became his ultimate weapon, leaving investigators with no new clues to follow. The Shadow Legacy. Today, more than 5 decades later, the Zodiac Killer remains one of America's most infamous unsolved cases. His impact extends far beyond the 5 confirmed murders and 2 survivors. He fundamentally changed how we think about serial killers and their relationship with the media. The Zodiac proved that a killer could become a celebrity by controlling his own narrative. His letters and ciphers turned murder into entertainment, creating a template that other killers would follow for decades. The case has inspired dozens of books, films, and documentaries. David Fincher's 2007 film Zodiac introduced the case to a new generation. Amateur investigators continue to analyze evidence and propose new theories on internet forums and podcasts. The 2020 breakthrough in solving the Z340 cipher proved that fresh eyes and new technology can still unlock secrets from the past. It gives hope that perhaps someday we might finally learn the truth about who the Zodiac really was. But we must never forget that at the heart of this mystery are real victims and real families whose lives were forever shattered. David Faraday, 17, a boy who just wanted to take a girl on a date. Betty Lou Jensen, 16, a bright student with dreams of teaching. Darlene Farron, 22, a young mother with her whole life ahead of her. Cecilia Shepard, 22, a college student who fought bravely for 2 days before dying. Paul Stein, 29, a cab driver just trying to make a living. And the survivors, Michael Mageau and Brian Hartnell, whose lives were forever changed by their encounters with evil. These are the people we remember. These are the reasons we never stop seeking justice. The eternal question. So here we are, more than 50 years later, still asking the same haunting questions that have obsessed investigators, journalists, and amateur sleuths for generations. Who was the Zodiac Killer? Was he Arthur Leigh Allen despite the lack of physical evidence? Was he Gary Francis Post, as some recent investigators claim? Was he someone we've never even considered? A phantom who committed the perfect crimes and vanished into history? Could he still be alive? If the Zodiac was in his 20s or 30s during his killing spree, he could be in his 70s or 80s today. Somewhere out there, an elderly man might be sitting in a nursing home or watching television, carrying the secret of America's most notorious unsolved serial murder case. Will we ever know the truth? Advances in DNA technology continue to solve cold cases that once seemed hopeless. In 2018, the Golden State Killer was finally caught using genetic genealogy, a technique that could potentially identify the Zodiac if enough genetic material exists. But time is running out. Evidence degrades. Witnesses die. The trail grows colder with each passing year. And perhaps most chilling of all, what if we've already met him? The Zodiac lived among us. He worked somewhere. He shopped for groceries. He might have been someone's neighbor, co-worker, or even friend. He was hiding in plain sight, wearing a mask of normalcy while carrying out one of the most terrifying crime sprees in American history. This case teaches us that monsters don't always look like monsters. They can be anyone. They can be anywhere. And sometimes they can be smart enough, lucky enough, or careful enough to never get caught. The final verdict. The Zodiac Killer represents everything that terrifies us about crime. Intelligence without conscience, power without accountability, and evil without explanation. He showed us that some puzzles may never be solved, some questions may never be answered, and some killers may never face justice. But he also showed us something else: the incredible dedication of law enforcement officers who never give up, the persistence of journalists who keep important stories alive, and the power of ordinary citizens who refuse to let evil win. Every time someone analyzes a piece of evidence, every time a documentary examines the case, every time we refuse to forget the victims' names, we deny the Zodiac his ultimate victory. He wanted to be remembered as a criminal mastermind who outwitted everyone. Instead, he's remembered as a coward who murdered innocent people and then hid behind letters and codes like the pathetic predator he truly was. The investigation continues. The hope for justice remains. And somewhere out there, the truth is waiting to be discovered. David Faraday, Betty Lou Jensen, Darlene Ferrin, Cecilia Shepard, Paul Stein. Their names deserve to outlive his mystery. Their memories deserve justice, and their families deserve answers. The Zodiac Killer thought he was creating an unsolvable puzzle. Instead, he created an unbreakable promise. We will never stop looking. We will never stop investigating. We will never stop seeking the truth. Because that's what justice demands. That's what the victims deserve. And that's how we ensure that evil never truly wins. The hunt for the Zodiac Killer continues,